Welcome to the So You Missed Church podcast. We are happy to have you here with us today. Happy Monday to you. This is Clint Daly, and I'm hoping that if you attended church this week, you got something out of it. But if you missed church this week, or maybe you couldn't go, maybe didn't want to go, maybe you didn't even miss it that much, we hope that we can still help you get your week started in a positive way. You know, there was a movie a few years back that came out, and the premise of the movie was that we as humans only use about 10% of our brains, and that if somehow we could unlock their full potential, oh, the wonders that might take place. Of course, we know it isn't true. The notion that we use only 10% of our brains is actually a myth. They say this misconception stems from early research back in the 20th century, where scientists were actually unable to detect activity in certain parts of the brain because they weren't using, the most up-to-date imaging techniques. However, with advancements in neuroimaging technology, it has been clearly established that all parts of the brain are active, and they all contribute to various functions. In fact, our brains are constantly working, even when we're sleeping. Studies have shown that different parts of our brain may be more or less active at different times, but none are completely inactive like many people thought back then. Having said that, our brains are definitely way more powerful than we do realize. There are a number of studies that have shown that the human brain is capable of doing extraordinary things like pain relief or psychological changes. There have been studies that when a patient has been told they will bleed less in a surgery, and because they believe that physically they actually did bleed less. In fact, our minds are truly powerful. And even now, even in this modern day, we still don't fully understand how they were able to do some of the things that they do. And I tell you these things today for one very specific reason. As a Christian for most of my life, I have been asked by many people why I believe what I believe. And I have been told by many people that even though you believe that, no one really knows what happens when we die. Maybe there's a heaven, maybe there's a hell. Maybe we get eaten by worms, maybe there is just absolutely nothing. No one really knows. And hey, they're not wrong. Anyone who tells you they do know is lying, or is Lazarus himself and has in fact come back from the dead. So if we do know, without uncertainty, what happens after death, then what is the point of believing what we believe? As a Christian, I believe that after death, we will go on to be in the presence of our God by our acceptance of his son's payment for us. But hey, we don't know for sure, right? No one does. If we knew, it wouldn't be faith, would it? Having said that, it is also true that no one knows that what we believe is false. You can no more prove it than disprove it. And that is why I want to reinforce to you this week about what we know about the power of our minds. We go today to Paul's letter to the Hebrew church in Israel. And in chapter 11, he discusses this very subject. He says in verse 1, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." He goes on in verse 3, "By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what is visible." And Paul goes on to talk about how Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, and Sarah all lived by faith, even though they didn't know what would happen eventually. And in verse 13, he says this, "All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting they were foreigners and strangers here on earth." So we do not know what will happen. So if we don't know what will happen, why in the world do we believe what we believe? Why in the world should we have faith? Is faith simply a lesson in folly for weak-minded fools that believe whatever they've been told by this church or whatever? No, because the difference between the believer and the unbeliever, if nothing else whatsoever, is simply this: as a believer, we have hope. Hope of what might be. Hope of what could be. Hope of eventually being in the presence of God, in the presence of our loved ones, in the presence of absolute perfection. And I, for one, will choose hope over no hope. I will choose belief over atheism or agnosticism. I will choose faith over disbelief. And I know that will carry me no matter what I face in life. I would rather have faith than have nothing. Hey, remember, you can always contact us at youmisschurch@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us. We would love to be a source of encouragement to you. You can follow us on Facebook or X at YouMissChurch, and you can subscribe to the podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are hosted, or just go find us over on YouTube. And hey, if you get a chance, feel free to share the podcast with someone that you know it just might be something they really need to hear. We would appreciate that so much. Hey, I wish you all a very happy Monday, and I hope you have a great week.